You guys can see me? Just like this? Wow, that's really embarrassing. I guess I am a real Seaweed Brain. Phew, gosh. Wow. How upsetting. Okay, nobody saw me do that. Nobody saw me wear those. Just forget about it. But you're not going to forget me doing this review of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Season 1, streaming only on Disney+. That was supposed to be a mouse, folks. For those people who know, if you're a late millennial, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Disney Channel was Disney Plus before Disney Plus was Disney Plusing. That might have been a mouthful. Oh well, deal with it. We're in this new age of streaming and whatnot. Really either hit or miss television. So, thankfully, this season was a hit. Man, I am delighted to say. And it was based on the best-selling series of books by Rick Riordan. And thankfully, they nailed it. So, just my brief overall thoughts on Season 1 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. Now, as many of you might have already known, there was already an attempt to do a adaptation of Rick Riordan's beloved book series when Disney Plus announced the adaptation of Percy Jackson as a TV show. Of course, I was thrilled because the first two movies were
Well, these are interesting.
They were rough. They were really rough for many reasons. However, I was both hesitant. I'm going to amend what I just said. I was both hesitant and excited when they announced Percy Jackson. Some of the casting choices they had me a little concerned, and I had my eyebrows raised initially, but once we got closer to the release date of the first two episodes, I felt myself a true Seaweed Brain, like really excited for this show. And then I watched the first two episodes and I was hooked. They nailed Percy as a character. They nailed Grover, they nailed Annabeth. Man, they captured the spirit of the books. What really stuck out to me about this adaptation, and I think some podcasters have already talked about it, some people on the interwebs who have really, really mentioned how different this show is compared to the movies. Yeah, the movies were like, didn't know what the heck they were trying to do with the story, but they made some really interesting and quite baffling changes to the characters, like aging them up, taking out a lot of the humor, removing complete plot lines from the story that were essential to understanding the ideas of the story, and didn't really know where they were going with the movies. But off the bat, I mean, this show nailed it. They nailed all the characters. The humor was there. The lighthearted tone was there. The teen angst was there, but also the heart and the emotions that you felt reading the books were there. Walker Scobell as Percy. I could not get enough of his line delivery.
They like the smell of burnt mac and cheese.
I mean, like, some of the lines in this first season were phenomenal. The acting for especially children actors was sublime. Camp Half-Blood was a blast. I feel like we didn't get to spend enough time there. And then, not to mention the adult performances. Virginia Cole as Sally Jackson, Lance Reddick as Zeus, Toby Stevens as Poseidon, Jay Duplass, I think is his name, as Hades, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Hamilton himself as Hermes. Timothy Udmundson as Hephaestus. We got all these really high-class acting ability for the gods, and they were so good. But the thing that really stuck out to me the most, that had me rewatching this show more than I would rewatch, say, like a Marvel Disney Plus show, or even House of the Dragon, both of which I love. I love those lines of product from our streaming services. But what really had me coming back to this show in particular time and time again was how grounded this show felt compared to the books. Yeah, the books are super fantastical. They're emotional, they're human, but they're also like magical and fun and goofy, and have the characters in all these like really interesting, whimsical situations a lot of the times that just have you laughing. Also, side note, as of me recording this video today, February 7th, 2024, Disney has officially renewed Percy Jackson for season 2, which
Sublime
is phenomenal. Yes, I've been waiting for this news, and I got to get on the ball because Walker, Leah, and Arian, I think that's how you say his name. Forgive me if I mispronounce it. They're grown quick. They ain't little spring chickens anymore. Walker Scobell's already like 6 feet tall. Arian Jimhadri, I think that's the actor that plays Grover. He's about to be 18. Like, come on, Disney, what you doing? You've already dropped the ball too many times on Marvel, on Star Wars, and on your animated releases recently. Get your shit together. Come on. All of these whimsical situations are still on the show. However, they are much more, the word that kept coming to me was grounded. They felt more realistic. They felt more familial. And they also brought in flashbacks of Percy Jackson's family, of Sally Jackson. They really centered the show around the relationship between Sally and Percy, which I loved. And it hit so different in a good way. And I think what really stuck out to me was one scene in particular in episode 1, right as the Minotaur is about to take Sally away, and she grabs Percy's face. And this was a show creation. It was not in the books. But I remember that day my mom had told me something similar to what Sally told Percy on the phone. And going back and rewatching it would probably have me in tears. You knew where Percy was coming from. You knew his motivations for the quest. And then they tied that in with Annabeth trying to come to terms with her family situation. You had Grover coming to terms with his mission to find Pan, brought up from later books into this season. Really great choice. And do this really humanizing story. And I'm all for whimsical, childlike, wondrous elements to these kids' books. They are written for kids. But at the same time, making those choices to add in flashbacks for Sally Jackson, for Poseidon, for Luke Castellan, I think that's how you say his name, the character. You know who he is. We either love him or hate him. They made choices to bring more adult themes into this story without losing the spirit of the books. Which the spirit of these books is, if you are different in any way at all, you have a place, regardless of your background. And that's what this show hammered home so well. I mean, there were points I was moved to tears by this season of television. more so than even Loki. And I love Loki. He's probably my favorite characters of all time. And I wasn't moved as much as I was by this first season of Percy Jackson. It's just phenomenal stuff. Yeah, they did have some issues with visual effects. Like, the volume was pretty obvious in some of the episodes. Like, come on, Disney. This is an expensive show. Make it look good. Don't show us where the volume ends. Like, it's pretty painfully obvious we can tell where the volume ends. Yeah, I'm also talking to you, Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios. Get your crap together. We want to see more quality TV shows. That's just the way things are nowadays. We're in a streaming era. And I think slow down in some of the episodes, make them a bit longer. Don't cut things out just for the sake of cutting them out or adapting them. Don't cut things out. Like, don't have Poseidon and Zeus be in an empty throne room. Show us Athena. Show us Hera. Show us Hephaestus. Show us the Pantheon. Show us that inverted U shape. We want to see that. That's what we come to watch these shows for. Like, great stuff. But also, I do think, despite some of my complaints of previous shows, like The Wheel of Time, House of the Dragon, even the maligned final season of Game of Thrones, those shows didn't have enough episodes. And also, neither did Ahsoka. Ahsoka didn't have enough episodes. For some reason, these streaming services are cutting episodes off at 8. I'm like, no! Give us more! That's what we came here to do. I'd rather wait in anticipation for 10 to 12 weeks, looking forward to a fantastic finale instead of rushing to the finish line. I want my stories drawn out. I want to know what's going on from time to time. And I think that's one thing Rick Riordan has done with these books. He has brought people together in so many fantastic ways. Like, people are still talking about these books a decade after they've been published, a decade plus. The Lightning Thief came out in 2005. It is 2024, and the story is still being talked about. That is quite an achievement. Like, you can't underestimate or undersell how much these stories have affected people's lives in a good way. Now, granted, I do think Disney needs to hop on the ball with season 2, because Walker Scobell is he was a kid when they first cast him. Like, all of it. He was a kid. Now he looks like he's ready to go to college, and the first season just finished airing. Like, Disney, why are you waiting? Come on. Like, don't twiddle your thumbs. You have a hit on your hands. You have child actors who are actually good. And soon you're going to have the Stranger Things problem, where Finn Wolfhard is 9 feet tall, and his character is a freshman in high school. What are you doing? Come on. Let's go. Let's get moving. So, I think my negatives for this season are very few. I think they could have put in a couple more scenes from the books that would have made more sense. Some of the writing choices, like having the quest fail and having the summer solstice deadline pass before they could finish the quest, was quite odd. Like, why were none of the gods on Olympus when Percy goes to return the Master Bolt? That didn't make any sense. And why didn't we spend enough time at Camp Half-Blood? Why didn't we see the Hellhound come in that Luke let in? Oops, spoilers. Why didn't we see any of that? Like, I wanted to see more of the fantastical stuff in the show. I mean, I'm not complaining about the grounded nature of this season. I'm not. I praise that wholeheartedly. But I wanted to see more of the fantastical elements. And again, I think some of the writing choices, like, didn't really make a ton of sense. I wish that episode 4 had been a little bit more drawn out. Like, some of the performances from the adult actors were just one and done, and it shouldn't have been like that. There should have been more of those performances. And at the same time, I found it kind of baffling that they chose to reveal the Master Bolt in Percy's bag before he saw Hades, and then they didn't have Annabeth with them in the throne room of the underworld with Percy and Grover. They had her go back to the real world early, and in the book she was Detective Annabeth on the case. She had stuff figured out, left, right, center, behind, forward. She was helping Percy figure stuff out, and Percy just goes, Grandpa? Kronos? You're the Titan who is ruining my life? Okay, All of a sudden, Percy just figures stuff out, and a lot of the tension was taken away from the characters that was present in the books that really made them riveting to read. I can't make that a plot point for the coming seasons. Give them tension. I know we're in this era of like woke television where the characters have no hurdles to overcome, but the hurdles that they overcome are what makes these books and these stories so compelling. You can't cut that out. You just can't. Just like I'm not cutting out this portion, so suck on that. Overall, my favorite episode of the season was episode 8, The Prophecy Comes True, which I gave a 9 out of 10, which I consider a great episode. The season as a whole, I give an 8 out of 10. It had what it took to be great. Anything that is an 8.5 or above out of 10 is great to me. An 8 out of 10 is almost great. It had what it took. It just didn't lean into that enough. And I think that's what it was missing. But I'm super excited to see, now that season 2 has officially been greenlit, where this show goes. I'm thrilled. And I'm going to be rereading the books before subsequent seasons of the show come out, just because I want to remember this story as well as I do when I was a kid. I mean, this story has a place in my heart, kind of like Harry Potter does. Not to the same extent as Harry Potter, but similar. And I'm excited to see where that goes. And without further ado, thanks so much for tuning in. And remember,
driver picks the music.
Shotgun shuts.